Everybody. So if you've been noticing that you notice that the change in politics with populist politics, uh, the Republican Party is not anti-union. In years past, they have been strongly anti-union, and you could almost draw a line between parties. One party was anti-union, the other party was pro-union. Obviously, the Democrats were pro-union, but now with the Republicans also being pro-union, now there's competition for the blue collar vote, the union vote, and there's some clear winners here. The longshoremen, uh, they've won. Their unions have won because of the changing politics. Steel workers are winning. 50% tariffs on imported steel. U.S. Steel is going to be in partnership with a Japanese steel firm called, I believe, Nippon. So there's going to be more steel produced here in the U.S. Obviously, the auto workers union, big winners, with tariffs and that Michigan swung towards the Republican Party, in the latest election. So there's a shift in the country where both parties are competing for that blue collar vote. And then also the younger generations are looking at the skilled trades for better paying jobs, better career opportunities than going into debt and getting a 4-year degree. So this trend may continue for the next few decades, where there's going to be a growing middle class, more likely, growing blue collar workforce, a highly skilled blue collar workforce, and a highly unionized blue collar workforce. And these different unions, steelworkers union, auto workers union, longshoremen's union, you know, they do cooperate on union activity and trying to organize blue collar jobs. And that's got to have some kind of spillover into trucking for truck drivers and Teamsters. So when you think about, you know, can the Teamsters regain membership in the trucking industry? I would think they have a really good chance because the auto workers made gains, steel workers made gains, longshoremen made gains, all the other skilled trades are making gains. I think it's just a matter of time before trucking and the Teamsters start making some gains of their own. It would be a missed opportunity for the Teamsters for sure if they didn't jump on the bandwagon, and be part of this movement that is for the blue collar worker and the unions that represent them. You know, um, I think with skilled trades becoming a more popular career choice, it's going to affect all those skilled trades, all the blue collar industries, all the blue collar jobs. It used to be a large percentage of the American workforce was union jobs, blue collar union jobs. And then, I would say, when trucking deregulated in 1980, and then you had um, a movement towards offshoring jobs and globalization, it became more cutthroat industry, and the unions lost their grip on drivers, truck drivers, for example. And the push has always been non-union, 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 non-union. But now you got both parties, both political parties, vying for that vote. So there could be increased union activity in trucking. And when you think about how will the non-union companies respond, well, they typically will do all the things they should have been doing all along, but they didn't. You know, they should have been paying the drivers more. They'll start doing that, offering better benefits. You know, they should have been doing this all along, but it would take the threat of the unions to really motivate them. So better pay, better benefits, you know, more opportunities to become independent contractors, buy your own truck, you know, become a small business owner. So, you know, these are things that companies could do to keep the unions at bay. But I think that the growing trend in the country is towards uh, a blue collar unionized workforce that both political parties are going to contest, you know, to battle each other for those votes. You know, when it was just the Democrats competing for labor votes, it was like, you know, pick a side, you know, Democrat or Republican, union or non-union. But when they're both competing for the union vote, then that really supports uh, the political and the social conditions for more union vote, more union workers. You know, so that, you know, if you're a truck driver and one of your buddies is a steel worker or an auto worker, and they're getting paid, you know, great pay and benefits, and their union is representing them, it really makes you think. You know, what could you, you know, achieve if you had union representation through the Teamsters? Um, I don't, you know, I'm not recommending, you know, the Teamsters or any union. You know, myself, I'm an independent contractor. I think companies would have to put more effort into staying non-union. You know, they're going to have to compete with that union um, opportunity that drivers may end up having. You know, it'd be like the unions would become popular again. You know, Teamsters would become popular again, where drivers want to do it. You know, they look at them steel workers and those auto workers, and they're like, I don't understand why truckers can't get, you know, union benefits just as much as they do. But the way that the non-union companies would do it is they would have to increase pay and benefits to the drivers, and they would probably have to improve upon their independent contractor opportunities for the drivers as well. You know, give the drivers incentive to stay non-union. Otherwise, I mean, it's like, look, you know, these other unions are doing great by their members. They're you know, steel workers are happy, auto workers are happy, longshoremen are happy, truckers are not happy. Yeah. So that's out there. I think it's only going to uh, continue, and that's probably going to be good for the industry. A little competition for the drivers is going to be good for the industry. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the internet.